This is the DaYan GuHong Pro M, and it is probably one of the most loved cubes to be released in a long time. With incredibly smooth turning and such a low price, no wonder people like it so much. For me, regardless of what video I upload, there is always someone in the comments saying the GuHong Pro M is the best cube. But is it? Well, after doing hundreds of solves, I can confidently say it's pretty good. And so there are 5 things that I really like about it and 3 negatives. But let's begin with the positives. First of all, and probably the most important thing, is that the performance of this cube is really good. In terms of actual solves, I find that turning on this cube is nice and fluid, whilst ensuring that there is still controllability at the same time. This is something that DaYan have really improved on this cube, as on the DaYan version 1, it was really smooth to turn, but the stability was terrible. But that's not the case here. If I was to describe how this cube feels, I would compare it to 3 other cubes and how they are all sort of featured in this one. First of all, the GuHong Pro sort of has a similar feel to the DaYan, which is really nice and soft, as well as the Tornado version 3, which is also a great feeling cube. Next, it has the stability of the Weilong version 9, which is good in ensuring as few mistakes as possible are made. And these 3 are all great cubes, which means that the GuHong Pro takes the best part of each one to make itself better. One important part of performing well on a cube is whether or not you like how it turns. For example, Gang cubes are mainly focused on fast and dry turning, whilst Moyu cubes are focused on smooth and buttery turning. And part of this is how the cube sounds. And this is the second thing that I really like about the GuHong Pro. Whilst it isn't overly important, the sound does really add to the overall experience, and it is really satisfying. However, now I think it is a good time to mention the first negative of this cube, and that is that the corner cutting is good, but it does feel like too much effort is required to make even the smaller cuts happen. Where other cubes have incredibly smooth smaller cuts, this one is much more rigid, which means that precise turning is somewhat needed to perform well. Now, this doesn't mean that the overall corner cutting on this cube is bad, it just means that the GuHong is so much better when you don't have to rely on inaccurate turns being completed for you. But anyway, let's move on to another one of its strengths, and that is the tensioning system. Now, I think that everyone knows that the best adjustment system on the market is the Tornado version 3, because it doesn't require a tool to make changes. However, the GuHong Pro M is also similar in this sense. This is because it is really simple to adjust, and you can do it with your fingers very easily. The one small downside is that it isn't a dual adjustment system, which is a shame, but that doesn't take away from how easy the tensioning system is to use. Speaking of adjustments, this brings me to my second negative about this cube, and that is that you can't adjust the magnets. Of course, you are not really paying that much, which means custom magnet strengths isn't something that should be expected. However, I would have liked to have seen a slightly more expensive cube with the option to change magnets, because I think that they are a little bit too strong. Now, moving on to another positive, and one of the most defining features of the GuHong Pro M, which is that it has 6 different options. You can choose either maglev or spring, and the option for 54, 55, and 56 millimeters. Personally, I really like that we were given these options. I feel like cubes now are more commonly 54 millimeters, which I find too small. So it's really good that we have the choice to buy a bigger cube, and others have the choice to buy a smaller cube. I think that this is too minor of an issue for other cube companies to copy, but DaYan were definitely thinking about everyone when making this 3x3. The last thing that I do not like about the GuHong Pro M is the unboxing. I mean, there is magnets on the box, and it is very simple, but it doesn't feel overly premium, and that's a slight shame. Obviously, this cube is very cheap, and I shouldn't expect a load of things in the box, but maybe a little bit more would be nice. However, the benefit of this, and moving on to the last good thing about this cube, is that the price is really low. Genuinely, it is ridiculous how much you get for such a small price. Not only do you have a really nice cube that performs exceptionally well, you also get a good tensioning system and a ball core which helps with stability. There aren't many other cubes that can compete with this one at the same price. And I think that if lots of people start to favour the GuHong Pro, it could also become the budget go-to for newer cubers, which would be great for DaYan. But now onto my final review. Will this cube become my main? Well, I'm not quite sure. Whilst I do really like it and how I perform on it, I still feel like there is something missing. The GuHong Pro M is nearly ready to be mained by a lot of cubers, but I'm not sure DaYan are quite there yet. Maybe if they released a second version of this cube at a slightly higher price and include some more premium features, it could universally be considered the best cube ever released. But let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure to leave leave a like, subscribe, and if you want to find out what new, exciting cubes will be released in 2024, click this video. Thank you for watching.